this program to bring you Courage the Cowardly Dog Show, starring Courage the Cowardly Dog.
You're not perfect. Now, I haven't seen Courage the Cowardly Dog in a long time, and watching it recently really inspired me to make this video. Just the feeling of the first season overall is just insanely disturbing. Courage the Cowardly Dog was a disturbing, nightmare-inducing, otherworldly feeling horror comedy for kids that lasted from November 12, 1999 to November 22nd, 2002. And I recently went back and looked at the first season and of course the most popular episodes that gave everyone nightmares. And in today's video, I'm going to explain what makes Courage the Cowardly Dog feel so unsettling. So let's begin. The central plot of Courage the Cowardly Dog revolves around a pink dog named Courage who lives with his owners Muriel and Eustace Bagg, who live in the middle of nowhere. Sounds familiar, right? I'm taking it right from the intro of each episode because it pretty much explains the whole series. Courage was abandoned by a pup, Muriel took him in, and strange things happened in nowhere. Courage was created from the mind of John R. Dilworth when he came up with the short pilot episode that aired on Cartoon Network's What a Cartoon back in the early 90s that got so popular that Courage was born. Because of John R. Dilworth's crazy way of making art, he gave Courage that strange feeling that people get when watching it. And yes, Courage does have comedy elements, because if it didn't, it wouldn't really be a kid's show. And in fact, when Courage was originally being made, it wasn't gonna be a kid's show. It wasn't meant to be, but Cartoon Network was fine with what they put in it, so who cares? Like, for an example, when Courage is about to be killed in the first episode at the Cat's Motel, instead of Cats just outright killing him, they battle in a tough game of wall ball, and this isn't a one-time gag. If Courage is in a tight situation and the villain is going to get him, usually the villain does some wacky shenanigans, and of course they never kill Courage, even if he loses. This is because the creator didn't want to resort to violence in his work. He wanted the villain to do something else to get the point across, like sports. Another thing is the different mediums of animation used, like clay and CGI, really is a big part of what overall makes the show have successful scares. You're not Because when you're watching Courage, everything is so unfamiliar, and it subverts the expectations with random everything, really. Speaking of which, let's talk about what makes this show so frightening. Sound design plays a very important role in Courage the Cowardly Dog. When a chase is happening, we get music cues. Or in different situations, like in Freaky Fred, when Muriel's nephew Fred comes to visit, and the way he talks to himself with little to no background sound really emphasizes the strangeness of this character. And when he starts shaving Courage and tells him about his past victims, like a serial killer, we get a sound cue that's just unsettling. See the difference it makes? Because in most of this episode, there hasn't been many intense sound cues, so when you finally get it, it's very disturbing. Or in the iconic Curse of Ramses episode, when one of Ramses' curses is playing his theme song, which is pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. Whenever Ramses is talking, saying "Return the slab," just a faint little bit of background music adds to it. Return the slab.
What's your offer?
Here's some more examples of different sound cues and background music. And another thing that has to do with sound, of course, is the voice actors themselves. I don't know if it's just me, but in Courage the Cowardly Dog, the voice actors of the villains, and in general, the voice work is just superb. From Cats to Ramses to Fred, even to Eustace, everyone puts so much work. Like, look at the doctor.
Now, I want you to open your mouth and say, ah.
What I suggest to you is to watch an episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. My next reason is, first of all, imagine living in nowhere. Yeah, no, I'd rather not. Going to the Cat's Motel, or a vacation island ran by cats, or having strange ducks like Leclac showing up just to try to kill your owner, or have a shadow scare the heck out of you just to then have a therapy session with it.
But that's not me. That's not me at all.
I always wanted to be in showbiz.
Or having so much PTSD that you get nightmares of a strange mutant fetus thing telling you that you're not perfect. Or imagine getting locked in a room with a serial killer-esque barber.
Courage. Your hair.
Or having your favorite person turn into a weremole who destroys your house and swallows people whole. Or having a greedy grandpa with mommy issues who scares you with his mask almost every episode, which in fact, Eustace originally was supposed to have a shotgun instead of a mask. Or having strange city hotels with doors that send you to different realities with live action and clay animation. Or when strange creatures just show up outside your door.
Return the slab.
Or even having a foot fungus take over your owner and makes you commit mob crimes.
What have you done with my Eustace?
Shut up, fat woman.
This is just a few examples of the feel and atmosphere of Courage. The way that Courage combines CGI with live action with computer generated backgrounds and art design for different places and scenes, and with clay animation. All the different jump scares, close-ups, and visuals just work, and it's something only Courage could do. It's so unique and just unsettling, for a lack of a better word. Like in the last episode of the series, when a perfectionist, which I'm pretty sure all of this takes place in Courage's mind, makes Courage try to be perfect, which gets him very burnt out, and when he goes to bed he gets PTSD levels of nightmares with different strange visuals. In the first one that he gets really stands out. The "You're Not Perfect" CGI figure, which is supposed to be a bugle. I really don't know how that's supposed to be a bugle, but earlier in the episode, Eustace had a bugle, and I guess Courage is getting a nightmare flashback of that. It's weird. The quickest scare of Courage, but it stands out to me like many episodes and how it never gets explained. But this time we don't know why Courage would even come up with something like this in his nightmare. Unless it's the bugle, that's what the main theory is, which feels very real, as in most nightmares, usually unique things happen that which you forget the next day. And for me, the scariest part was that you're not perfect, because no one is. The reality and feel is just unsettling. More than the Return to Slab guy, in my opinion. Speaking of which, let's look at the atmosphere of this one. Eustace finds a slab belonging to King Ramses, and Eustace and Courage hear on the news that the slab needs to be returned due to its worth of $1 million. With Eustace keeping it, of course, because he's greedy, just for Ramses to show up and ask for it back. And looking at the background of the scene, the CGI mixed with the oddly realistic backgrounds and with wind sounds and little music cues, that's what I think really makes this frightening. But personally, I don't find Ramses scary at all, which I know a lot of people do, but the way he swings his arms around is just not scary to me. But I understand why people are still scared of him to this day. When it comes to Courage, it's all about the unique thing John R. Dilworth did to make this show so iconic. Lastly, the biggest example of this is in the episode The Mask. With the underlying themes of abuse in a relationship and having prejudice, Kitty and Bunny really represent hate and innocence respectively. Their relationship with each other and Courage being respected by Kitty in the end really shows a lot. When John was making this, he didn't even think Cartoon Network would air this because of Mad Dog being represented as an abuser to Bunny. And of course, the unsettling and real nature of it all, this episode really stands out. In the beginning, Kitty hated Courage because she thought every dog was abusive like Mad Dog. But when Courage went to save Bunny, Bunny didn't care Courage was a dog because she just needed anyone to save her so she could be with Kitty. Which we do get the happy ending after Mad Dog dies after literally chasing Bunny and Courage near a train in his car. Courage succeeds in getting Bunny and Kitty together as they ride off into the night ready to start a new life. This episode isn't like Courage, and this isn't the only time something like this occurs in the franchise. Sure, this is the biggest example, but there are other scenes of episodes that have themes of imperfection, hatred, loathing, and more that are just all presented in a very deep and diverse form. But anyway, well, this is a strange way to end it, but what do you think of this strange cartoon? What episodes do you want to see me cover? And yes, I know I missed a lot, like the Scooby-Doo crossover, other iconic episodes, because this video was more of the what behind this show. Consider subscribing, and I'm Cartoon Culprit, and that's all. See ya! King Ramses!
The man I've been thinking too small, say. So now we're gonna pull a big job, a real big job. We're gonna knock over Florida, say.
Yeah, Florida! Yeah, Florida!